Enter the world, but tread with care. Those roots remember every prayer. Carved from ash, from bone, from flame. The sacred beasts don't play your game. Here change comes, swift on silver wing, with dragonflies that bite and sting. Truth flickers soft and sharp as steel, and every wound must learn to heal. Don't come armed with hollow lore. This world won't let you fake the war. For those who think they understand, you'll bleed the fastest by your hand. So read and ache, be torn apart. These stories rise from broken hearts. With grit and teeth they scream and soar. You've never known a world like this before.
Welcome to Dhampir, Book 1 of the Sacred Beast series by Sarah Yuher. 9. Overworked officers. Kieran spent hours with Lucifer and Ezekiel, drawing pictures of 13 missing Dhampirs. His back ached by the end, but Lucifer kept his cup continually full of coffee and brought snacks. Maria's mother had been the easiest to draw. Kieran had known her. The others he had never met, but Ezekiel was detailed in his descriptions and corrected Kieran's sketches where needed. When they were done, he checked his watch. It was already 14:54. He called his mother while leaving the club and getting into his truck. "Don't tell me you're going to be late," she answered on the second ring without even saying hello. "Hello to you too, Mother," Kieran snarked, knowing he'd get pinched for it later, but taking his chance now. "Did Dad tell you Lucifer and Ezekiel hired me for a job?" "Yes. Are you going to the police station now?" "Yeah. I've got sketches of the missing Dhampirs and details of their disappearances. I might as well head over there before heading to you for lunch. Mind if I grab Lacey on the way?" "She should be out of work by then," Kieran asked. "That's fine. How about we meet up at the Wyvern's Call for lunch?" "I'll take Kaga to the apartment to set up his room," his mother said. Kieran perked up at the mention of his favorite restaurant. "Sounds good to me. I'll text you when I'm done at the police station." They said their goodbyes and hung up, Kieran sending Lacey a text message before he started his car. "Kieran, lunch at the Wyvern's Call with my mother and Kaga. Mom will help Kaga set up his room so he doesn't have to sleep on the couch." The drive to the station was uneventful, and Kieran frowned at his phone as he was getting out of his truck. Lacey hadn't texted him back yet. She worked as a secretary at an insurance company and usually texted him back. "I guess she's busy," Kieran thought as he walked up the steps to the large stone building. Inside the station was organized chaos. The sense of stale, burnt coffee and sweat perfused the building as officers purposely rushed about their business. He noticed many officers had their hair braided and wrapped with the saw of the divine blades. Most wore the orange saw of the holy blade, but a few had saw from the other blades. There was even a white tiger lichen with the braid and white/gold saw of the spring staff. Kieran approached the front desk and waited for almost 20 minutes before the desk clerk finally looked up from her computer. "Can I help you?" she asked, eyeing Kieran's hair and eyes. "I'm here about the rape of Alurisran Nephilim on the 15th. Ezekiel Nefarian and Lucifer Bonwings believe the rape to be connected to the disappearance of 13 Dhampirs from the local Dhampir kiss, Kieran explained. "The Department of Dhampir Affairs deals with crimes involving Dhampirs. Down that hall at the end," she said, pointing to the hallway to the left. She sounded annoyed by Kieran's interruption of her oh-so-important work. From his glance at the computer screen, she had been playing a game. "Thank you," Kieran said, leaving her to her computer game. The hallway was clean and more deserted the closer he got to the Dota. "Third Prince Kieran." Kieran turned at the sound of Maria's voice. She was with her brothers, who clung to her as they hurried to Kieran in the deserted hall. "Has your mother returned yet?" he asked when they got to him. They all shook their heads. "No, you said to come to the police if she hadn't returned by Gamerlaw," Maria said, wrapping an arm around each of her brothers. "Thank you for listening to me. Ezekiel got me on the case," Kieran said as he knelt and looked at Mike and Lucas. They looked healthy but still too thin. "Am I going to see you tomorrow at the soup kitchen?" The boys nodded eagerly with their sister. "Will you go in there with you?" Kieran finished. Maria nodded. "Yes." He held a hand out to the boys, and both grabbed hold of it, Maria taking his other hand. He could feel their trembling as the group walked to the door. Lucas opened the door, and they went inside. The first thing Kieran smelled was tobacco smoke mixed with more of the stale, burnt coffee. Underneath that, he could smell jackal, badger, and cougar. "What did you say?" a young woman screamed, jumping onto her desk and scattering papers everywhere. Her golden brown hair was braided tightly to her head, and her brown eyes glittered with anger. She was almost as pale as a Furian. The smell of cougar came from her, and Kieran recognized her as the niece of the local Warcougar clan Alpha. He couldn't remember her name, but her temper hadn't changed from the last time he saw her. Kieran didn't know the man she was yelling at, but badgers were rare, and there wasn't an established group in Exagra. His black and white hair was cut short to his head in a buzz cut, and his brown eyes looked almost black as he aimed a shit-eating grin at the angry cat. His tan skin had the appearance that if he stopped going into the sun, it would never grow as pale as Kieran's or the other officers. "You heard me, you dumb cat," the badger yelled back, enjoying riling the other animal up. "That's it. Let's see how your damn skin holds up to my claws," the cougar hissed, shifting to her half-form. Kieran sighed and embraced his magic, shrouding the room in complete darkness. Color bled from the world for Kieran, his magic allowing him to see even without light. He watched the young woman yelp and miss her step in the sudden darkness, falling face-first onto the floor. The man cursed, looking around him and drawing his firearm. "How about you holster that damn firearm? There's kids in the room," Kieran suggested. "Fucking rich boy," the man growled, pointing the gun in the direction of Kieran's voice. "You're the one picking a fight with the Cougar Alpha's niece," Kieran pointed out, throwing his voice. The badger aimed his gun at the far wall. "I bet you don't even remember her name." "You're right, I don't. Though, she doesn't go to the yearly shifter ball every year. And when I do, I avoid talking to people," Kieran pointed out, guiding Maria and her brothers farther away from the badger. "You couldn't even remember my name in middle school," the cougar hissed. Kieran saw the man enter the room from the back office. He was tall, maybe a little taller than Kieran, and built with broad shoulders and muscles that strained against his suit. In the black and white dark of the shadows, it was hard to tell the color of someone's hair, but the lines on his face showed his age. An unlit cigarette hung from his lips as he flipped open a lighter and lit it. Taking a long drag from the cigarette, the man spoke in a clear, loud voice, making even Kieran and the kids stand a little straighter. "Rasharu. Maverick Kailani. Stop your bickering. Third Prince, take down your shadow shroud." Color bled to the world, and Maria and her brothers made strangled yelps as they tried to keep quiet and hide behind Kieran. Maverick and Rasha both went to submissive positions before the man. Salt and Pepper hair was cut short to his head at the top and braided and wrapped in the white and gold saw of the spring staff. He was human by the smell of him underneath the burnt tobacco that seemed to be a part of his scent. Leathery, suntan skin was aged, but his brown eyes were as sharp as Oren's. He filled the room with his presence, and Kieran was glad this man was human and a pacifist. "Sorry, sir," both of the shifters said. "Is there a reason you both are bickering in the office instead of out trying to solve these damn cases?" the man asked, opening and closing his lighter. "Athanasius and Nazari sent us both back," Officer Rue said, her voice becoming more timid. Officer Kailani's voice didn't grow timid as he spoke, but he did sound more respectful of the human than the damper. "I may or may not have insulted a human store manager when asking for video footage of the back alley behind their store." "And you?" the human asked Kieran, directing his attention to the group of Dhampirs. "I'm here about a rape case and missing Dhampirs. Since Maria and her brothers are all kids, I figured a shadow shroud would keep them safe," Kieran explained with a shrug. "Fighting shifters can get out of control pretty easily." Rasha went slightly pale when she noticed the 3 Dhampirs behind Kieran. Maverick snorted and looked indifferent until Maria hissed at him. He frowned at her, confused. "We haven't found the missing Dhampirs yet," the human said, flicking ash into a nearby ashtray. "It's not like we have your magic or even pictures of the missing Dhampirs. Ezekiel's kiss is so closed-mouthed, all we know is that they're missing." Kieran walked forward and handed him the folder with the sketches of the missing Dhampirs. Ezekiel hired me to look into the missing Dhampirs and the rape of Alurus Nephilim. The human frowned as he looked through the sketches of the missing Dhampirs. The two animals came up behind him, looking at them as well. Damn, those are better than Jotham's sketches, Rasha whistled. Yeah, Maverick agreed, taking one and looking at it before glancing at Maria and her brothers. I'm guessing this is your mother, he asked, showing them the sketch of Ariadna. Maria and her brothers nodded. Yes, her name is Ariadna, and she's been missing for 2 weeks. Mike tugged on Kieran's shirt. Come on, they won't do nothing. Alpha hired you. He whined, and Kieran patted his head. Maverick rolled his eyes. Not with that dash, he grunted as Sarah elbowed him in the side. Both looked down as the human glared at them. The sound of someone else entering the office drew everyone's attention. A short, plainclothes officer with black and golden brown hair was pushing a tall damper into the office. His dark skin reminded Kieran of chocolate cake. He also recognized the damper. He didn't know his name, but he came to the soup kitchen high often enough that his mother had kicked him out multiple times. Anyone could come for a free meal, but Aaron did not tolerate drugs. How many times do I have to arrest you? The warjackal asked. I wasn't doing nothing, the damper hissed out, his fangs extended and his eyes glowing with bloodlust. That's what you say every time, and every time I find dust on you. Their voices trailed off as the warjackal took the damper through a keycard door on the far side of the room. Ezekiel is gonna be mad, Lucas said in a tiny voice. The human-eyed Kieran. As you can see, we have our hands full with drug addicts and crimes we can actually solve. We don't have the time or resources to deal with 13 missing Dhampirs, who probably just moved on somewhere else. Mommy didn't abandon us. Mike hissed at the human, letting his sister pull him back to her. I don't need your resources to find the Dhampirs, Kieran said. The third prince is right. All he needed was to be hired through his dad, the warjackal said as he returned to the room. He offered his hand to Kieran as he introduced himself. Lieutenant Dragomir Manol. It's nice to finally meet the Blood Oak Sleuth's Lurus third prince. Kieran shook his hand. Likewise. Manol isn't the name of the Pax Alpha family. Lieutenant Manol chuckled. No, my family has always been warriors of our pack. And our pack is small, so many of us joined the police after graduation. He turned to the human. I say, send Kailani with this one, Sergeant Reynolds. Kailani? Why him? The human, Reynolds asked. Maybe he needs a Lurus to tame him. I'm right here, Kailani pointed out dryly. Reynolds gave the warbadger a look that he ignored. I think it's a grand idea. Have fun hunting Dhampirs with the third prince, he said, snapping his lighter shut and turning back into his office. I have somewhere I need to be before I go gallivanting into the sunset with him, Kieran said, thrusting a thumb at Kailani. Change your plans, Reynolds tossed back. How about you explain to my mother why I'm not meeting her for lunch then? I kinda like living.
"13 souls stolen, one rescued from the refuse. A man barely past a boy, raised by bears of blood-soaked oaks. As love grows distant, cotton candy tastes so sweet. Lust and love, what's the difference? The badger jokes and steals, the world sneers and scorns. Blamed for their father's sins, innocent hearts drown in Dhampir sins.